Hi Flosstube, I'm Chelsea and this is Sound Mind Stitching. It is August 18th, 2022 and I am filming this from my house. My 2-year-old is napping and I have about an hour until I have to get my kindergartner off the bus. So I've got everything laid out. I've got the giveaway winner for the Prairie Schooler Santa that I shared in my last video, and I have several finishes, a couple that I was able to fully finish, a couple new starts, including one that breaks all the rules that I ever set for myself and said I would never do. So hang on tight. I am really glad to share my stitching with you. I have been doing a lot of stitching, watching a lot of Flosstube, and just really enjoying seeing other people's things. I don't know what it is about Flosstube. When I try to explain sometimes to other people what it is and how much I enjoy it, it doesn't really make sense when I say it out loud, but there are a few things I enjoy more in the evenings if my husband is at a meeting or something than just getting to stitch and turn on Flosstube and listen to other people while I work on whatever I'm working on. So I'm thankful to be a part of that by sharing my stuff and sharing a little bit about my life and how I fit stitching into it and what a blessing it is for me on a daily basis. If you're new here, I am Chelsea, as I said. I started back to cross stitching in the fall of 2019 and hadn't stitched in 20 years at the time. So picked something that was really ambitious, and it took me 2 years to complete, and I was so sick of it when it was done. But I felt like if I tried something different, maybe I would enjoy it, and that turned out to be the case. That was almost a year ago, and since then I have really just jumped headfirst into cross stitch and Flosstube and finding new designers, slowly collecting all the DMC colors, venturing into overdyeds and overdyed flosses and hand-dyed fabric. So I started this Flosstube back in February, and this is my 13th video. So I don't really have a super regular posting pattern. It's just usually every couple of weeks when I feel like I haven't have enough to show. I am married and we have 4 kids. My husband is a pastor of a small church in rural Georgia. We live about 35 minutes outside of Savannah, Georgia, at the very southern part of the state. So it is still extremely hot here. That is why I look like I do, because I spent the morning at the park with my 2-year-old and it's like 1,000% humidity. And again, we have 4 kids. Our youngest is 2. He starts preschool tomorrow, just a couple mornings a week. My daughter is 5 and she is in kindergarten, and we have 2 older boys who are 11 and 12, so this year 6th grade and 7th grade. So they're both in middle school at the same school, and yeah, life is busy because they go to our church youth group. Our 11-year-old is in Boy Scouts. Our daughter just started ballet last night, and we really try to limit our family commitments, but even just having each kid do one thing when you have multiple kids turns into a lot. So getting everybody back to school was kind of a marathon. Our kids wear uniforms, and my daughter didn't have to wear uniforms last year in pre-K, so we had to get all of her uniform stuff. The boys had to make sure everything still fit. If not, we had to get new stuff, plus school supplies. And then of course, once school started, all of a sudden there was still all these other things we had to do. So they've been in school for about 2 weeks now. And again, my 2-year-old will start preschool tomorrow. So he's just been home with me every day since they've gone back to school, which has been really great. I don't know, maybe several videos ago, I shared about his speech issues, and he has kind of unofficially been diagnosed with a speech disorder called apraxia, which is basically, you know, he knows everything that's up here, but our brains and heads are filled with these neural pathways that travel from our brains to our mouths. And on those pathways, it gives directions. Like if I'm thinking of a dog, and I want to say the word dog, my brain is telling my mouth how to say the word dog. Well, Noah's neural pathways that do that never got built. We don't really know why. It's just something that happens. There's no like known cause. It's just a thing. So he's in speech therapy, and we are trying to build those neural pathways for him. At the beginning of the summer, he was only saying mama, and it was very inconsistent. And at the time, he was a little over 2. Now he's about a month away from being 2.5, and he is saying about 30 different words or sounds. And he wasn't even really saying sounds, like animal sounds, at the beginning of the summer. So he's not talking in sentences, he's not using 2-word phrases, but he has made huge progress for where he's at. And he doesn't have any cognitive delays. All his evaluations came back totally normal in those areas, so he understands everything that we say. And the issue is not with that. The issue is with him using his mouth to say words back. So he says a lot of but some of the new words he's been saying are hey, especially to small animals or bugs. He has been saying bubble. He's been saying more consistently, and he also has been making up some of his own signs when he doesn't know how to get me to understand. So he has a sign for big. He goes like this. This is a sign for garbage truck. And the other day he saw a spider and was trying to tell me, and he came over and went so he is really figuring out how to talk to us, and it's been sweet to have this time with him these last few weeks when my kids have been at school, because I've had a little more time to kind of focus on him, and I've gotten him, he's been saying so many words, and the goal is for him to just keep making sounds with his mouth, because that's how his brain understands how to keep doing it. So it's honestly been exhausting, just getting everybody out the door, having a 2-year-old home all day. I also work part-time, so his new preschool schedule will allow me to work from home a few mornings a week without having to worry about a babysitter, which will be wonderful. I have not had a consistent babysitter this summer, and so I have hardly worked, and I have a really flexible job, but I'm like only a day or 2 ahead on what I have to do, and that is not where I like to be. It's very stressful. So I'm hoping starting next week especially to get ahead a little bit on work, and we'll all kind of be in a more normal routine. So 8 minutes in, I'm going to now share my stitching and share the giveaway winner. So first I'll do the giveaway, and then if you want to stay and see the stitching, you can. I asked in my video about the Prairie Schooler Santa, it's the 2006, for you to share your favorite thing about Christmas, which felt silly, but it was July. So the winner is F&B Fab. That was the screen name. So if that is you, then send me an email. It'll be in the description box, soundmindstitching@gmail.com, and I will get that out to you. And if I haven't heard from F&B Fab by my next video, which will be in several weeks, then I will pick a different name. So get in touch with me if that's you. And if you didn't win, thank you so much for commenting. I have more things to eventually give away, so I'm happy to share stuff with you guys. Okay, so I've collected my first 2 things to show you. These are both FFOs. One is a finish from the last time I saw you, and then I was able to FFO it before the video. So the first thing is something I finished back in July, and you've already seen it fully, or you've seen my finish. It's Flowers on Shelves by Playbook Patterns. I'm trying to pull up all my information. Okay, so here it is. I framed it in just a white frame. I think this is an 8x8. It came with a mat, which I took out, and I just did this with like Illustrator board and a little bit of batting to give it some depth. And I'm planning to hang this in my bathroom. This frame did not come with any kind of bracket, so I need to put that on. If you remember, I have Plants on Shelves by the same designer, Playbook patterns, in my bathroom. And then I've also done Christmas on shelves, which I'll be hanging up at Christmas. And she just came out this summer with books on shelves. So eventually I'll be stitching that, and I'll have 4 different same size, pretty much the same frame to hang in my downstairs bathroom. So this was stitched on 14 count off-white Aida. It uses the called for DMC. I didn't really change much. I messed up this pot, so I kind of did it my own way, but for the most part, it's just the way it is. And you can see there are some French knots. There's a little bit of back stitching for the stems, but this is a really great stitch for a beginning stitcher. If you're new, because it's very manageable, and each vase kind of feels like its own little finish, so it feels like you're making progress. I just find these charts really, really fun. So that was my first FFO for the video. I started this back in May, finished it in July, and then fully finished it about a week ago. My second finish / FFO is Washington, D.C. by Awesome Pattern Studios, which is on Etsy, and then they have their own website. This is a little bit different. I'm really proud of it because I had this image in my mind of what I wanted it to look like, and I felt like I accomplished it. So here it is. This is, again, Washington, D.C. There's no glass, so it's kind of glare. The light's kind of bright though. So yeah, this is a 16 count ivory Aida, stitched with the called for DMC with some substitutions when I didn't have something. It's all full coverage, where within the circle it's all full coverage. And I saw this is just a charger from Hobby Lobby. It was $1.99. It was from their Easter collection, so I got it when it was 50% off. And I had seen one of the models of this pattern was in a circle, and I thought, well, that looks really cool. It's kind of a circular design, as you can see. I saw this charger. I didn't even know if the pattern would fit, but I bought it anyway. So I finished this, let me see when I finished this, about a week and a half ago, and it sat around for a few days, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finish the flowers on shelves, and I'm gonna try to finish this. So I was really happy to see that it fit almost perfectly. The way that I finished it was I got a hoop. Actually, I meant to measure this before. So let's see, I'll measure it real quick. I was gonna say, yeah, it was an 8-inch, just an 8-inch wooden hoop that I had. So I put my fabric in the hoop with the, the outer part of the hoop around it, and got it as tight as I could, centered fully. And then I did that first. I should have waited. I had to use a different 8-inch hoop, and I traced the inner part of the hoop on batting and Illustrator board, so that I could fit that in the back. So there's batting behind this and then Illustrator board. So then I used hot glue and glued really tightly the back of the fabric to the back of the Illustrator board. And once it was really, really tight, I took the outer part of the hoop off, and this is what was left. So the inner part of the hoop is still here, the wooden hoop. So it's very, well, that hoop is dead now because I have the outer part with no inner part. But and then I put another piece of Illustrator board on the back behind the fabric to make sure that it was flat and adhered like fully to the charger. So this does not have a bracket or anything. I need to put one on that, but I'm just thrilled with this. I mean, I'm not usually very impressed with myself, but I think it was just because I had this image and this color was like the perfect color, and it fit perfectly, and I put it in the circle without really, I kind of used what I've picked up from other floss tubers to figure out how to mount it in the round. And I love the way it looks. It's not perfect, but it is perfect enough. And I forgot to say, I did add here at the bottom my initials, my husband's initials in 2022, because I started this back in March, right before my husband and I went to DC on it was our 13th anniversary, but we had wanted to go on a trip at 10 years and it didn't happen. So this was kind of our big trip. And I wanted to be able to commemorate that with something. So I just love this. It just came out perfect, exactly how I imagined it. And it really encouraged me to kind of think outside the box. Because again, this charger was $1.99 and everything else I used, like I already had. It didn't require an additional purchase. So think about using a charger. It can work. Yeah, that's Washington, D.C. by Awesome Pattern Studios. Okay, those are my FFOs. Then I have some finishes. Last month I really got into the groove of just working on something until it was done. I had really been jumping around a lot and it was kind of making me anxious for some reason. So I pushed through and finished Washington, D.C., and that really gave me some motivation to keep going. So I finished another pattern for my son, Cohen, who's 11. This is New Year Monkey by Pro Embroidery Art on Etsy. It's only 5 colors. I stitched this on 14 count black Aida using the called for DMC. And I just finished this last week, but I started it back in May. And it's really not that big. But it was just kind of tedious. It was kind of boring. And I did not really love the black Aida, which I said, you know, I'm never going to stitch on black Aida again. I don't like dark fabric. Well, stay tuned because I changed my mind. But anyway, I love the way this turned out. My son's super minimalist and he loves monkeys, so that's kind of what sparked this design. I don't have a frame to put it in. I have some stuff that I could mount it on, but I really want to frame it so that he can hang on to it and it can stay in decent shape. So this is for Christmas, so it's not urgent. Just gonna wait till I see it's like it's basically like an 8 by 10, I think, if I frame it pretty close to the margins. I don't plan to leave very much space, so I plan to kind of frame it, you know, a little bit of space at the top. But yeah, this was fun. I'm glad to have it finished. I wouldn't say I loved working on it, so I'm glad it's done. If I ever do something else for him, it won't be something like this. And then the other 2 finishes are kind of partial finishes. They're both, one is a stitch along and one is Nutcracker Village, which you guys are, if you've been here for a while, you're familiar with. So the first one was Under the Sea. This is by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, and it is a 10-part stitch along that started in March. My fabric's kind of wrinkly. This is 32 count Nessie by Picture This Plus. I'm trying to hold it up for you while I also look up the details so that I can remember. Yeah, linen. The most recent part was this part up here with the puffer fish and this little diver who had different skin color and hair, but I kind of tried to change it to look like my daughter who's got blonde hair. The puffer fish were really fun. So this comes out once a month. So this came out at the end of July and the next part will come out at the end of August. And it finishes up, I think, at the end of December. So that was just another part of that. Some of the parts have called for a border on the side and Under the Sea at the bottom, but I haven't done that yet. I'm not sure I'm going to. I'm gonna wait till it's all done and see what I think. But I also had changed, if you've not seen this before, the mermaid was different colors, and then the diver at the bottom I kind of made look like myself. So I think they said there's one more diver, and I'm gonna try to make it look like my son, Noah, if I can. So that is Under the Sea. The last kind of partial finish was Nutcracker Village. So here is, I've got some threads kind of parked there. Okay, so here is what I have so far. The most recent house that I finished was this one over here, which was Sugar Plum Sweet Shop. So notice that they don't have eyes. I don't like the eyes I did on the other one, so I'm gonna wait and do all the eyes at the end. But yeah, this one, I've really liked this house. I'm using some DMC, and it calls for Classic Colorworks for a lot of the colors. I'm only using it for some. I'm doing the blue, the pink, the green, the purple, and the lighter brown, which is hazelnut. The green has like no variegation whatsoever, at least not the kind that I got. So, but the purple and the pink really, really do. I'm not sure how well you can see. This light is, let's see. But in the process of working on this house, I realized I did not have enough floss. I had enough floss to finish this, but there's still 6 more houses to go. And many of them are already out. There's only 2 more that are not. And so I already knew some of the colors. So I did order some more. It's not exactly the same, but thankfully, since it's on a different house, I don't think it'll be super noticeable. And oh, that reminded me, this was stitched on 32 count raw silver linen. I just saw Georgia Girl Stitching mention that she bought some of this and she really loved it. I don't think she'd started stitching on it yet. So I don't know if she'll still love it when she does. I don't love this at all. I have a set of magnifiers and a light that I got, and I almost certainly have to use them when I'm stitching on this, unless it's like outside in the middle of the day, because the silver threads make the holes so hard to see, and I've made so many mistakes that I've had to fix that I only use this with magnifiers now because I don't want to screw it up anymore. But I'm happy with how it's going. I still have 6 more houses. It's due, or well, I wanted to give it to her for Christmas. So once I kind of get to a stopping point on some of the other stuff I'm going to show you, I'm going to work on the next house and hopefully finish that this month. And then I'll have 5 houses to do in, 3.5 months, which is doable if I really focus on it. So those are all of my finishes or partial finishes. Okay, so now I've got a new start and 3 whips, and then I have another new start, but I'm going to save it for the end. My first new start is 2 Pumpkins Bright by Hello from Liz Mathews. This was a pattern that was given to me by a viewer, and I wasn't really, it wasn't really jumping out, but then I changed my mind and I decided to do it. So I guess I got the Halloween spirit. So I've made some decent progress on this, but this is what I have so far. This fabric is like too bigger than it needs to be. This is what I have so far. This is as wide as it is. The bottom there is the width. I'm not quite to the top, so I'll have a good bit of fabric. This is 25 count antique white Lugana. So it's gonna be kind of big. This was my first time stitching on 25 count, and I really like it. This was just fabric that I had bought for something else that I decided not to do, and I used it for this, and the stitches are kind of big, but I'm enjoying it, and I think for a seasonal piece like this, it's perfect. It calls for NPI, but I'm just using DMC, whatever I had in my stash, and I've still got, the pumpkins to do, and then the little triangles along the top. I've still got a little bit of a ways to go, but I'm hoping I can finish this in the next month or so. Let's see a little up close. This was my first Liz Mathews project. I love her. I love watching her. I love hearing her talk about things. But I was excited to start one of her patterns. Another whip, well, a whip is, I've shown this before. This was also one sent by a viewer. Silver Creek Samplers, Fred's Unifying Question. I haven't done a lot since I last showed it, but I felt like it was worth showing. So this is 14 count Ada Cornflower Blue from Hobby Lobby. The called for is a linen, I think. It's a little bit darker, but it looks very white, but it is a light blue. And it does have a couple variegated flosses or overdyes and then some DMC. But this is one, because I finished like Washington DC and that monkey one, I don't have a lot of Ada projects left, which I kind of think I'm kind of slowly moving past using Ada very much, but it's a great thing to work on when my husband and I are watching a show because it doesn't require quite as much concentration. So I've been pulling this one out on like date night and stuff, and just working on it for an hour, you know, once a week or so. Another whip. This one is also not super exciting, but this is the one I'm making for my other son who's a big football fan. This is a Tennessee football. Let me fold this back. I made this pattern. So this is the edge of the football. I've done half stitches almost all here. This is basically half of it, so it'll look the same on the other side. If you know anything about the University of Tennessee, their football field has a checkerboard like this. And my son loves orange, he loves anything Tennessee, so I think he's gonna enjoy this. It's a pain in the neck because it's mostly just this brown. I wasn't thinking, and now I understand a little better how designing must really be an art, because it's not enough to just have something that looks cool, or that, you know, looks a certain way, but you also have to think about the stitching process. And if I were me, I would not want to stitch this. So this one, I finished the monkey one, and this one and the monkey one were kind of my most tedious projects. So after I finished the monkey, I thought, man, maybe I'll just push through and finish the football, you know, just kind of get it over with. But it's just too much brown. It's way too boring. So what I'm doing is in the morning, I have a little bit of time to stitch. I try to get up before all the kids have to get up for school, and I read, I listen to a Bible reading plan, and when I'm listening, I will stitch. So I get maybe 15 minutes, and then I get a little bit more time in the car line when I'm dropping my daughter off. And this is perfect for the car line because if I put it down, I don't have to remember where I am. It's obvious, I'm doing the brown. It's 14 count Rustico Ada. It's very simple, and again, right now I'm just doing the brown. So I think if I work on this every school morning for another month, I can make a really, really big chunk, and maybe I can just do that until Christmas. You know, maybe if I do that the next few months just in the mornings, I can get it done. I may take, you know, a longer chunk some night watching a movie and do a bigger chunk, but right now it's kind of been therapeutic to do just a little bit every morning. So that's where I am on that. And then my final whip, aside from the new start that I'm going to show you, is one of the pieces for Coastal Holiday by Hands On Design. This is my first Hands On Design pattern. If you've already watched, you've seen I've done this one and this one already. I still have to do this one, and now I'm working on this one. So this one's been really fun. I'm making these for my mom for Christmas because she decorates her house with beach, Christmas coastal beach things. This is right up her alley. You can see it says eatings from the sea, so I need the rest of the letters, but I've been working this way to this way. So right now my big goals are kind of to finish this, and then once I finish this, I'll start working in earnest on the next Nutcracker house. But I love this pattern because there's just a lot going on. You don't really get bored with anything because you get to keep moving to something else. Like these little crabs, there's starfish. I'll try to show you in the model. You can see there's like little tiny seagulls on the side, and then there's these houses. So I've got the first part of this house, and then there's still 3 more houses. So the pattern calls for color and cotton, which I couldn't find at the time, and it does have a DMC conversion, but once I started stitching, I realized some of the colors were not the same as the model. They didn't look anything like it, and they didn't look good together. So I kind of converted some of them myself to what I thought looked good. So this one's really fun. I'm stitching this on 32 count lamb's wool. This is probably my favorite thing to stitch on. Unlike, it's crazy because if I hadn't ever stitched on this, I wouldn't have realized that I don't hate linen. All I had done on linen was that Nutcracker Village, and I just don't like it. But I love this. I can stitch on this without even, like, I can work on this in the evening watching a movie with just like the lamp. I don't need magnifiers. I don't need a really bright light. I can do it. So I think it's just that silver thread is just not good. So this one's been really fun, and I'm excited to give it to my mom along with the ornament. So after I finish this, then next month, my goal will be to do the last little ornament, and then I'll have to finish them. But now that I have my sewing machine, I think it shouldn't be too bad. So yeah, those are my 4 whips / starts. And now I'm going to go and get the other thing that I bought, which I hope you don't think I'm crazy, but it's a lot. Okay, are you ready? This is the big one. So about a week ago, I was still kind of recovering from the back to school grind, and there's a lot of stuff going on just in the rest of our life that it's not anything like catastrophic, it's just stressful. And I was really dealing with the stress of, I don't know, it was weighing heavy on me. And what did I do? I thought, I'm gonna find a new pattern to stitch because I don't have anything else that I'm working on. And I had this thought, I want to do a Star Wars pattern. Growing up, my parents were extremely restrictive in what I could watch, but I was allowed to watch Star Wars. So the original trilogy especially is just near and dear to my heart. I've seen it a million times. I had the biggest crush on Luke Skywalker as a prepubescent girl, which I know is bizarre. I read a lot of the books when I was younger. I've enjoyed the newer movies, kind of, but I'm kind of a purist. I really love the originals. So I went out looking. I didn't want anything cheesy. I didn't want anything cutesy, like all the little characters, like the little like pixelated, chubby, you know, Stitch people. I mean, those are fine, but I didn't want that. I wanted like a real Star Wars thing, and I didn't want it to be this like full coverage blacks and grays only thing, something in between. So I looked and looked, and I found this, which is I found it on Etsy, and I'm like looking up it was by Velvet Line, the Velvet Line shop on Etsy. So it says, you know, these are very high level, not for beginners stitches, but here's the pattern. It looks like a stained glass. I saw this and I immediately knew this is what I want to do. Now it looks pretty big, but that didn't turn me off, so I bought the pattern. It also came with a Star Wars one, a Star Trek, kind of the same idea. I didn't love that, but I have it, I guess, if I ever want to do it. So anyway, I printed out the floss list. I'm trying to find it. Okay. And these are all the flosses. So it's, I think, 82 different colors. It is 400 by 618 stitches. So by far the biggest thing I've ever stitched. It was stitched on 18 count black. And if you can see in the pattern, you know, the, in between the areas of full coverage is just the fabric. So immediately, if you've been watching me, you should be saying, but Chelsea, I thought you didn't want to stitch on black anymore. And to that I say, you're right, I did, but I changed my mind. However, I needed a really big piece of fabric, and I didn't want to do 14 or 16 count. I wanted to do 18 count, or I was willing to do like a linen, like a 32 or something. It was really tough to find somewhat affordable linen, so that was out. Finally, I settled on 20 count charcoal Aida. So I didn't use all of it, but I had to buy an entire yard of it to have enough for this piece. I didn't need it all, but in order for it to be the right length. So this is what I have left. So I cut, so this was like one end, this is the width, and I cut all of that. So I'm gonna show you, I have it in my big Q-snap. It is a, now not every page is like full of stitching. A couple pages only have a few stitches on them, but if I were to print out the whole pattern, it would be 60 pages. So here's what I have so far. This is the bottom left. This is like some sand in the bottom of R2D2. So that's what I have. This part right here, like from here down where you can see there's kind of a line there, is like the first page. It wasn't a full page, it was like a quarter of the page. So I've what am I doing? I don't know. Before I talk about how I'm approaching this, I'm going to show you the floss. So again, 82 colors. I try to decide how I wanted to do it, and one thing I'm proud of is that I didn't buy any floss for this. I bought the fabric, which was like not cheap, but the floss, I was all from my stash. I either had the color or I laid a color out that looked similar, and I'm going to insert a picture of the process I spent looking for substitutions. I used my DMC color card and tried to make sure I laid out all the colors that I had that were on the list, and then in substituting I just tried to make sure that there was no other color that was too close, because sometimes if you look at the substitution websites, you know, there's two colors that could substitute for one that look really similar. So I didn't want to use, you know, the same color essentially twice. But it is full coverage and it uses a lot of colors. So with the blending, some of the colors are really similar. So I didn't stress about it too much. I think it's gonna look fine. But I put them all on floss tags. So this is the first set. There's about, I have 4 floss tags. And on each floss tag, I put, oops, that one's backwards, the symbol, the black and white symbol. And if, for example, on this one, if this is a substitute, then at the top I wrote the number that it had called for, so that just as kind of like a checks and balance, so that I don't forget. Or if I lose my papers that say what I substituted, you know, that I would still have it. So I do have this sheet where you can see I've crossed out the numbers and replaced it. But I debated how to do this. Was I gonna do it on my phone, keep track of the pattern digitally? I don't have an iPad. I do have a Kindle, but my daughter uses it. So Pattern Keeper, I just haven't gotten into that. I've tried some of the other like Markup RX and stuff, and it just does not work for me. I'm a very pro digital. I mean, I do tons of stuff on my computer, on my phone, but it just was not working. So what I ended up doing was, I'm just gonna show you from far away. This is like, again, 1 out of 60 pages of the pattern, but I basically printed out 1 page at a time. So I started with that first page, printed it out in black and white, and started working on it. And then I finished that page. So now I've got the part above it, and the highlighted part is what I've done. So I'm just using my highlighter. In terms of actually stitching it, I tried a couple different things on this first part at the bottom. I tried like full-on parking and leaving all the threads in, but there's so many, it was a mess. I could not do it. I tried like doing all of that color that was in that on that page and kind of gridded it with a friction pen, but it was too big of a space. So after trying a lot of different things, once I finished the first page, now that I'm up here, this next page, I mean, you saw, like, it's only about half, but I basically used a friction pen, and you can't really see, but I can see when I look, to do 20 by 20, a 20 by 20 square. And I'm starting with a color, doing all of that color within the 20 by 20 square, and then finishing off the thread, putting it back on the floss tag, and doing that for each color. I don't know how it'll look when it's all done. I haven't really done a lot of pieces like this, but this is keeping me from losing my mind and also keeping me from not losing track of where I am. So it's kind of a combination of like cross country. Well, I guess it's not really parking. I have parked some, but I'm not parking everything because it's just too much. So this is going to take me a million years. I mean, you know, if I did a page a month, which on the pages that are like a full pattern would probably be a lot, it would take me like 5 years because it's 60 pages. So I'm not in a big hurry, but I do enjoy this one. The 20 count, I really like it. I can see it really well. Sometimes in the evening I'll use my magnifiers, but as long as I have something white behind it, I can really see the holes easily. So it's not black, granted, but this charcoal is I don't mind it, and I still have that other fabric, so I can do something else on it. But again, I don't really know what got into me, but I'm really enjoying it, so it seems like it was worth it. So yeah, that's everything I have for today. I hope that you saw something that inspired you. I was inspired to do the Star Wars by another person's video. It wasn't that pattern, but it was something that reminded me of Star Wars, and then I just like went on a wild goose chase. As far as plans for the next time until I come back, I'm hoping to finish that Greetings from the Sea, the coastal holiday. When the next Under the Sea comes out in another week or so, I will be working on that, and then working on the football in the mornings, working on Star Wars as the spirit moves me, and Nutcracker Village is kind of at the top, because Nutcracker Village, the football, and the Greetings or the coastal holiday are all gifts. So those all need to be done by the end of the year. Nothing else really has a timestamp on it. And I do have some Halloween fall themed patterns that I'm excited to start, but I'm trying to see, I'm trying to make myself finish something, whether it's like that whole Greetings from the Sea or one house of Nutcracker Village. Kind of trying to stay on track. So anyway, that's all I've got. I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed being here and talking to you. I'll include as much as I can in the description box, but if there's something I forgot or didn't answer, please let me know. Anyway, happy weekend. I hope you are able to stitch what you love, and I will see you next time.